Hey y'all, it's Doc. And as you can see, made a couple upgrades to the studio. And I figured that'd be cheaper than the therapy that I'd need to kind of recover after the past year of teaching your lovely, lovely college age children. So I decided to do something new. Just recapping just random stuff and its effects in higher ed. And it's just what's on my mind for May 26th, 2026. And I've got notes, so, I've got notes. So I can get my stupid clicker to work. It's clicking. There we go. All right. First things first, let's talk about Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. And I forgot to use finger quotes when I said doctor because clearly I have gotten so tired of this hot, sticky mess. Here's the thing about people with real doctorates. We can prove it. I got a diploma somewhere. I have a picture at my mama's house in a, quote, place of distinction of me getting hooded when I walked across the stage in December of 2008 at Oklahoma State University after spending 6 years of my life there staring at machines. So I don't understand how we got here. I don't really know how we got here. It's crazy that somebody would actually take the time to really try to lie about having a doctorate when you really don't need to lie to kick it. But the problem is that you're going to lie about being a member of a group of people who are really good at finding things out. Like, if you can imagine, people get doctorates because they enjoy researching things. And so very quickly, if you want to be among us, we can kind of sniff out the fakes really, really quickly. And if you're talking about you have 3 doctorate degrees, come on now, no one's that crazy. People are really wondering why this is a big deal because it's an affront to people who have actually earned their doctorates. Anyone that has suffered through all the sufferings necessary, and there's levels of suffering. There's I just started grad school. There's I have qualifiers. I'm a PhD candidate. I have a defense. There's levels to this suffering. And I don't respect anyone that's just going to just lie about it. And then when they get confronted about it, just double down and just obfuscate the truth. It's not fair. And what ultimately happens is it makes it harder for people who really have earned doctorates because now you have to justify yourself even more when a lot of people don't really understand everything that goes into a doctorate in the first place. So I don't know how we got here yet again, but until she can produce a transcript, which it's not that hard. I don't care if your university they went under. There are contingency plans for this because if you're a legitimate university and you can't stay above water, you know that your people are going to require licensure. There will be entities asking for these transcripts. So you make plans for this. Legitimate universities just don't go under without some sort of almost succession planning for being able to get transcripts. And you have to think universities keep transcripts essentially forever. Because you never know when this type of information is going to be relevant and it's going to be necessary. So I don't get it. So you're just Cheyenne Bryant until you can prove, you can produce some paperwork. On to the next thing that's been on my mind. Let's talk about Harvard's grade policy. So on the other app, the one that just got bought, I talk a lot about grade inflation. And for those of you that don't really know kind of the history of it, grade inflation really became a thing around the time of the Vietnam War. And its roots were to kind of protect students from being drafted because they would get kicked out of school. Now, that's way, way back in the past. My issue generally with grade inflation has been kind of post-pandemic grade inflation that we've seen with high schoolers coming in with these wildly high GPAs. And then they come to college and they just get annihilated. They just get wiped off the face of the earth because you have 3.8 expectations out of a 2.4 student. So Harvard basically came back and said, hey, we've got this new policy to where only 20% of your class plus 4 people, so it's 20 plus 4, can get an A, like a solid A. And Harvard didn't limit that to A minuses. And professionally, I just have an issue with A minuses because it muddies the water. Like it completely, the notion of pluses and minuses really muddies in my brain, but I'm just, a simple man. It muddies the water, but it just feels like Jack Welch's stacked ranking. Like it feels like almost like it's somewhere between stacked ranking and the Hunger Games. Like everybody is fighting for this top 20% plus 4 to get an A in a class. And the problem that I have with it is the fact that I teach a class where there's no ambiguity. Like when you're doing chemistry, there's no ambiguity in whether or not something is a limiting reagent or not. There's no ambiguity in what the proper stoichiometric ratio is. So just to have this situation where, everyone's fighting for these top 20% of A's, it just, in my mind, it doesn't work. But again, I'm not that smart of a man. I really have mixed feelings about this. Like, I don't understand how this is going to work. I think it's probably gonna backfire. I think it's silly, but at the same time, I mean, they're Harvard. I guess they know what they're doing. But in terms of combating grade inflation, I don't necessarily know if this is going to be the thing that does it. Like, I don't know if this is magically going to be the thing that fixes this notion of all of these perfect transcripts. And I think that's what they're doing is they're trying to just make it harder or kind of eliminate the idea of just this perfect transcript, which I think is silly in the first place. Next on my list of, life grievances this week, Glendale Community College in Arizona, they decided they were going to use an AI program to read the names at graduation, and guess what? It glitched. Imagine that. Here's the thing that I don't really believe that people understand about graduation. Graduation isn't for the graduate. Graduation is for your family and everyone else that has had to put up with your crap for the 4, 6, 2, however long, many years you've been in school. Graduation is for them. It's a way of saying, thank you for putting up with my crap. Now I can go be an adult. That's really what graduation is. And to mess that up, skipping people, it not only hurts the students because the students kind of get kicked to the curb. Because from what I understand, names weren't read. It kind of messes up that sense of accomplishment that a lot of students generally work hard for. But then on top of that, it's really just a slap in the face to the families of the people that have sacrificed so much for this moment, for this time. And if you look at how people treat graduation, it is truly a special moment. And it's just really unfair for people to have to deal with the fact that somebody decided to use an AI program instead of, a person. And the reason this is like such a thing that hits home for me is the fact that I'm from a little town in Texas called San Antonio. You may have heard of it. And San Antonio has, if you've never heard of San Antonio or know, not much about, this little state called Texas, San Antonio has a large population of people of Hispanic or Mexican descent. Okay, cool. And with that, at graduation time, it was always a big deal of who is going to read the names at graduation, because you have to have somebody that is natively bilingual because you are going to have traditional anglicized names. And then you are going to have names that if you don't study that language, you are going to butcher. And that was always a big deal. I still remember who read my name at graduation, and she's the GOAT. She is absolutely the GOAT of reading names, just because that is something that is so important. And names are more important than people realize, especially by the time you go to graduation. Like, you may get your whole government name called. And for some people, their whole name is part of their family's history. So I feel like the solution to all of this would be if maybe colleges studied like languages, and then maybe they could have people called linguists that they could draw on when it's time to read these names in languages that may not be English. I don't know. I'm still workshopping the idea But I think maybe it might have some value. But long story short, using AI to read names is just lazy. And I have a feeling like it feels like something that was just foisted onto administration by even higher up, because I mean, that is such an impersonal thing to do, to be like, oh, here, scan here so I can say your name when you walk across the stage. Like, that feels so impersonal in a moment that is incredibly personal. So I feel bad for the students that got left off. There would be no way. That's a hill I'm willing to shed the mortal coil on, that I'm not going to. I wouldn't want to walk if I had a robot reading my name. I want someone that has a soul, someone that has a heartbeat, that is going to read my name. And especially if I have a unique name, or I have a name that has significance, I want someone that's going to capture that. And you just can't capture that with AI. All right, last but not least on my list of gripes and professional complaints this week, the enhanced games. I almost said AI games, but it's kind of the same thing. The enhanced games were held in Nevada this week. And, you know, I always thought it'd be interesting to see what would happen if a bunch of roided out people, did races and stuff like that. And it was kind of not what I expected it to be. There were instances where people who were completely clean beat out people who were on the juice. Now, why do I care about this? It's really one reason. Especially if you have a son in college and they are like upperclassmen and they're, going to off-campus gyms, there's a good chance that they know who's selling the juice. And in talking with male students over the years, I've always been able to figure out if I need some testosterone. Like, they're like, hey, I know a guy. There's a guy at the gym. There's a guy. I know the guy that can get you X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C. And the reason I say that is because there's so much social pressure and other things that are driving people to make very unwise health decisions. And it's not exactly like we're living in a time where people, value science or value research or evidence-based anything. So that's kind of my last gripe for this go round is, if you have a kid and they're off in school, you really need to have this conversation with them, male or female, or however they identify. You really need to have the conversation about all these unregulated things floating around. Probably next time we're going to talk about the joy of peptides and how the same people that don't like, quote, the jab are willing to jab themselves with unregulated peptides. But that's a whole other story. But I definitely wanted to I guess how I'm going to end this is, it's, in all seriousness, this is an issue. Like, it really is an issue. Students, they don't make the best decisions, and they don't feel like it's such a big deal that they're, doing on the juice. And it is a big deal. So with that, that's where we're going to wrap up this week. I hope you have a good time. I hope you like the new studio, but this is just it's cheaper than therapy. So I'm Jason. I have a real doctorate. I'll dig it off the shelf one day. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.